everybody, thank you very much for tuning in once again to our E3 coverage for Polygon.com. I am Griffin McElroy. Joining me is my colleague, my co-host, my brother and friend, Justin McElroy. And today we're talking to Justin Wiebe, talking to us about Garden Warfare 2, or should I say, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 2.
You're on a first name basis. You're on a subtitle
basis. I'm on a last
basis.
name basis with Garden Warfare. Justin, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Garden Warfare 2 was debuted at Microsoft's press conference, and I really liked the first Garden Warfare. It, much like Garden Warfare 2, seemed to have come out of nowhere. And I guess I'm just to start out curious to hear what was the main sort of area of improvement that you guys are focusing on for the sequel.
Okay, yeah, there's a couple big areas. I mean, first off, we take a lot of feedback from our fans, so we really wanted to kind of hear from them first, like what are the things they liked about the original game, what would they change, what was their big wish list, and we really distilled it down in a couple of things. The first one was they really wanted a graveyard ops mode so they could play co-op as zombies against hordes and hordes of plants. And then the second thing was they really wanted a solo play experience. The one thing about Garden Warfare 1 is you really had to play it online against others in order to enjoy the game. So for us, that was one of the biggest kind of areas where we knew we wanted to invest more in. So now, for the first time, you're going to be able to play the game. You're going to go in all the different game modes, play against AI. We've got a whole bunch of other things coming for that as well. We've got the ability to play split screen. Now you can play the entire game in split screen as opposed to just one mode in Garden Warfare 1. We're going to support multi-accounts with that. So not just looking at solo play, but it's also local play, like playing with somebody on the couch, inviting friends into private matches. So again, allowing players to play the game, I guess, the way they want to play.
Is there still a community of people who are playing Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 1, and are you going to continue to support them?
So there's a ton of people playing Garden Warfare 1 right now. I think it's a really strong community. In fact, our numbers just have been continuing to climb over the year. I think that's a lot to do with the fact that we've really tried to support the game with lots of free post-launch content, lots of content updates. We added a bunch of new maps, new modes, new characters. So really, and that's all free. Like, we're just giving that to the players because it really helps to keep our community together. And that's the same kind of thing that we're trying to do with Garden Warfare 2 as well. So, once people get the game, that's not the final game. We're going to continue to refine it, to expand it, and really work with the community to figure out what they like and what they don't like about the game, and continue to, create a polished experience for everybody.
So you mentioned Graveyard Ops, which is the zombified version of the Garden Ops mode from the first game. What's different in Graveyard Ops? I'm assuming it's not just a sort of aesthetic difference. Now you're zombies, but you're doing the same stuff. I assume there's more to it than that.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. We had to kind of rethink how we're doing a lot of the mode. There was no brown coat equivalent on the plants. The brown coats are basically like the cannon fodder of the zombies. They're the guys that they kind of always come first. They put buckets on their heads. So we really had to come up with a whole new class of plants. So we created these things, the weeds, basically, because we figured anybody who has a garden knows you can't stop the weeds. So they made sense for sort of the frontline fighters. We had to create a whole bunch of new plant heroes. And then we looked at the maps and the environments that you're fighting in and really wanted to, bring them more to life, bring more energy, almost think of the map as like an extra character where it's not just aesthetic, but things will happen within those maps that can affect your gameplay. So those are kind of the core areas that we've really tried to double down on and just, improve all of those areas, especially taking advantage of, being on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
The first Garden Warfare was interesting because it sort of hovered in the area between, your $60 AAA on-disc release and your smaller indie title. Is Garden Warfare 2 going to be in that same sort of niche, or is it moving more in one direction or the other?
Well, we're really doubling down on this game. We've put a ton of resources at this thing. It's going to be a huge game. This is just the tip of the iceberg that we're revealing as well. There's going to be a lot more to come in the next few months. So it's going to be there with the big boys now, so to speak. It's going to be a full retail price. But we're putting pretty much everything that we can into it with split screen, solo play experience, expanded multiplayer experience, 6 new classes, a plethora of customization. So it's going to be a pretty big game.
Is that intimidating to put yourself in sort of direct competition with some of the other big budget shooters that are already on the market and will be, when Garden Warfare 2 releases?
Absolutely. I mean, they're all great games, and I'm looking forward to playing them all. The thing I enjoy about Garden Warfare, and I think that the thing that separates it from a lot of the other games is it's sort of a crazy, over-the-top shooter. There's really nothing else quite like it, and that's what I think kind of sets it apart from everything else, and just kind of makes it a unique brand upon itself. So, I don't know that we're in direct competition with those other games so much as we're sort of the game that you'll play when you're done playing those other games. A game that you can basically chill out almost for the night. Like when you're all strung up and you're playing these games, and this is a great way to kind of unwind. I've heard so many people tell me this, that they love playing Garden Warfare after their session of Call of Duty or Halo or whatever it might be. They can unwind. They can then play Garden Warfare. I've heard a lot of people enjoy playing it as a family as well. So while we make a game that's tactical, it's got depth, we also make sure that it's super accessible, that anybody can pick it up and play it. So parents and kids can play the game together. And that's a really, really important thing for us at PopCap.
One of my favorite things about Garden Warfare, and one of the most surprising things, was how much unlockable stuff and how much customization stuff there was for characters on both sides of the fight. Is that going to carry over into Garden Warfare 2? Are players who spend a lot of time collecting all the different parts for their characters going to have any kind of reward for that in Garden Warfare 2?
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing a player loyalty system where basically you can bring all of your, most of your unlocked characters from your Garden Warfare 1 experience into Garden Warfare 2. So if you've unlocked all of your sunflowers and your cacti, you can bring all of those characters. You're going to have them immediately, and then those characters, like we're revamping our progression system, so you're going to be able to level up every single character variant independently from one another now. Cool. So that's going to basically create almost thousands of hours of different leveling up and progression and unlocks. In addition to that, we've got all new customization that we're going to be featuring. We've really taken a look at what people liked from our customization, and we're really trying to push it that extra mile. Go a little bit crazier with a few of them too, because we really want to have some kind of over the top rare items that people really love collecting.
The headline for Garden Warfare was really just about how insane of an idea it was, bringing Plants vs. Zombies into a third-person shooter. And that was very much about how do you translate the Plants vs. Zombies experience into a shooter. Now that you're making Garden Warfare 2 and you're sort of building on that already, do you feel a bit more freedom to just sort of get creative with it and make it its own thing as opposed to, having to translate that already existing game?
Yeah, I mean, the hard part is kind of over, right? I mean, trying to take something into a completely different area is obviously very challenging. And, there's a lot of people that were really curious about how that was going to unfold. I mean, obviously, we're making another one, so obviously it's been a very successful game for us. And now we're really, I think we are able to start delving more into the universe, into the lore of Plants vs. Zombies, to start expanding it, to start telling cooler stories about, where some of these characters came from, especially the new characters that we're unveiling.
Now, is this canon, though, in the Plants vs. Zombie universe? Like, if I kill a cactus in this universe, does he stay dead in the core Plants vs. Zombies universe?
We'll see.
So the trailer that you guys showed during the Microsoft press conference had a lot of stuff going on, even compared to the first game. I think it was the Graveyard Ops mode that you showed, that big gameplay chunk.
Right.
There was just like a lot of action and a lot of there were mech suits and big flaming trees and all kinds of stuff going on.
And a longer draw distance, obviously a lot more you can see on screen.
Yeah, how do you keep players on target? Especially, I feel like the Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare experience was really friendly to people who don't play Call of Duty, who don't play Battlefield and more hardcore military shooters. How do you keep players on target when there's all of this stuff going on around them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the game, and that can be a little bit intimidating, especially for people that are kind of looking at, how do I enter this game? What am I supposed to look at? What am I supposed to shoot? We've really spent a lot of time on accessibility, on trying to make sure that, we've got proper icons for, your enemies, calling things out, and also trying to find ways of punching out who you're supposed to shoot versus who you're not supposed to shoot, even through simple color swaps and things like that. So we often, we'll talk about certain features. We'll test them out. We'll bring in a lot of focus testers as well to make sure that they're going to be able to play the game, and we look to see, is there anything they're stumbling on, right? Is there anything that's getting in the way? And then we'll iterate and refine.
Cool. Justin, thank you so much for stopping by to tell us more about Garden Warfare 2.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching at home. Stay tuned. We'll have a bunch more E3 video content for you throughout the week.